in Delaware County and see what was going on. I took a couple protesters up to Sleepy, Delaware, and I hadn't had a protest since I was in college, so it had been many years. And what we ended up finding was that the blocking of the recount came from the heads of the Democratic Party. Okay, does that make any sense? Okay, we're looking for a recount. Possibly on that one, the idea was, did Kerry win, did he not? The Greens and Libertarians weren't necessarily looking to have him win, but to look at the election. They weren't it's not like Bednarik or Cobb thought they were going to win, but it was to audit the election and what happened. So to have the leaders of the Democratic Party, who also run the Board of Elections, be the one to block it made no sense. And I've told them that many times. Had the Republicans done it, it would have made sense. I might not have liked it, but it would have made sense. So I went to federal court, followed the whole thing through. They did end up forcing them to do it. They had a temporary injunction to block it. The thing that was important with that is it set legal precedent. If Delaware County didn't have to vote or recount, the whole state stalled. All the other counties waited, because if Delaware didn't have to recount, none of them did. And they tried to pass this through in Delaware's little courthouse. And I was in the courthouse when the judge was handed a small envelope by his one of the clerks, and he opened it and he read it out, and it was lovely because he said this case will not be heard here today. It's been moved to federal court. It went to Judge Edmund Sargas in federal court, and Sargas, they argued it for a whole day, but they ordered that they would have to have the recount. And then all these questionable things. Delaware County, in stepping forward for that, said that the reason they weren't going to recount is because they couldn't afford it. That they couldn't one of the guys who was one of the head people for the Board of Elections in the party said they couldn't even afford to plug in the tabulator machines, which is just an absurd thing. And I asked him, I said, well, what kind of machine do you got? Does it take a regular outlet or a 220, like a dryer? And he said, a regular outlet. And I told him to unplug the coffee pot. You know, you can't recount a federal election for that. So there were all these really strange stories that came out initially, which are the things that still carry me through today. Those are some of them and some of the people I've met on the way. Now, to update you on today where we are in the state of Ohio, some good things have happened and a whole lot of mischief has happened and a lot of non-accountability of the officials who we pay to do the jobs to oversee all this and make certain the legal needs of the state are taken care of. The ball's been totally dropped. So where we are now, 2004 election, the records from across the state that still exist as far as the ballots are in the custody of the Secretary of State. Over 2,200 boxes of records, and we have been through many of them, myself and others, and we literally can tell them precinct by precinct which ones to look at where we have evidence of fraud. Not only was the presidential election stolen, but also the Ohio Supreme Court race. And we've got the evidence. And they refuse to look. I'm going to pass some of these around, and you just go ahead and take one. With any of this stuff, feel free to make copies if you like and distribute them further. One of the things I like to do is not only talk to people, but actually put the documents in your hands. So the story goes out all over. And so one of the things that you have here is pictures of the stickered ballot. You've got a close-up, and then you've got a smaller one with some of the story on it, so it's self-explanatory. So if you showed it to somebody else, it tells you what you're looking at. You've also got an inventory list, and this is actually from the Secretary of State. This is Jennifer Bruner's personal inventory, and it's got a note on it because one of the counties, the information's wrong. They don't even know the information's wrong. I know it's wrong because I'm holding the records. So I know a lot more about some of the records than they do, which still amazes me. I'm a professional artist, so it's one of those things. I've learned a lot of law. I'm getting pretty good with that one, but I'm not an attorney. I'm an artist. The beauty of that is, as an artist, if I see something I don't like, change it. You know, what you need new ingredients, take away the ugly part, put in something better. And with the election mess, that's how I look at it. What we have now is a lot of the people that broke the laws in 2004 are still running the elections. We've got the evidence on them. Some of those people are still in the Secretary of State's office. There's a woman named Pat Wolf who we have direct evidence and witnesses. She was involved in the rigging of Coshocton and Greene County's recounts. Okay, if you remember the directive that Blackwell put out regarding the paperweight for voter registration, if you didn't fill it in on this thick paperweight, your registration was rejected. Okay, and it was like almost a cardboard stock. And even in Blackwell's own office, he didn't even have any of that paper. He was sending registration out on thin paper. Okay, the woman, when Bob Ney held, you guys know Bob Ney?
Oh, yeah.
When Bob Ney held the little fake hearing at the State House in Columbus for Blackwell, that was the only time Blackwell had to answer any questions on the election. He still holds a court order protecting him from being asked questions. And when Bob Ney called him in, he got asked questions by two women, Stephanie Tubbs Jones and Juanita Millender McDonald, who Juanita has since died. She was a California congresswoman. Stephanie Tubbs Jones is from Cleveland area, another congresswoman. The two of them each got to ask him questions for about 15 minutes. At that time, most of it, he blew them off, didn't answer their questions, at one point even mumbling, "It works, it works, it works," and wouldn't answer. One of the important things he did say, of which if you're interested in, I've got the transcripts from it, I can give it to you, but he actually in that hearing, they kept asking him about the paperweight, and he mentions the woman who thought of it, Pat Wolf again. So we have the same woman showing up in multiple things. She also is on the board of the Election Center, which is an election group in Texas, and that's a whole other story. If you get interested in this, I'd be happy to go farther with the EAC and the Election Center. And if you did a root cause analysis, if you're familiar with the whole procedure, if you really want to figure out what's rotten, it's not just, you know, a board of elections here or here, but you have to look at the whole hierarchy that formed it, what supports it, who trains them. And so I've helped with research on that so I can actually take it all the way to the top. So taking that back to currently, where we're at now, we have some boards of elections that have done a good job and seem to be very honest. We have others that aren't. For Muskingum County, you guys are not missing records, which is a good thing. So anyhow, I looked to see what the story was right here. So
do you know counties individual?
A lot of them.
Morgan?
Let me look. You guys have that inventory list. Off the top of my head, I don't.
I can see what's on my glasses.
And there, in this list, you're going to have, there's 3 different groups.
I need a copy of all that.
Okay.
When we get the file to where it can be transported.
Morgan, you're missing the unvoted ballots. Now, what's really important with the unvoted ballots is if you want to do an actual audit, you've also got to have the unvoted ballots. Let's say you've got an area and there's 400 people in a precinct. If you have, and 400 registered voters that they had ballots for, 320 of them got voted, you should have 80 left at the end. We have areas of the state that we know we have fake ballots. One of the things is legally that the punch card ballots had to have the precinct printed on them. But we have what we call wild cards. We have precincts where across the state where there's no identification on them. Things like that, which they're not allowed to even print.
What is the question then when you have missing
Unvoted ballots?
They could be used some other way?
Yes, they could have been used. They could have been
Right.
used to manufacture fake ballots.
Put in your ballots you want.
And it's possible that that never happened, and they just don't have them. But you can't audit and prove. They can't prove their records. They can't prove that they're right.
Mm-hmm.
We can't prove that they're wrong. But it leaves you in this gray area.
Maybe able to help you out a little bit. I listened
If
to
you
that
know
called
as
Alex
much about
Jones
Morgan
for
County as
years,
I do.
and he has got documentation of actual videotape against to missing ballots and stuff like that, and then like 3,000 ballots that were took to these polling areas after the vote.
I'd like to see the video of that.
Yeah, Infowars.com. Just
Okay.
get in contact with Alex Jones through that, and he did like a 3-hour show on just that here in Ohio. He said there is actual videotape, and now this is a radio program, so I didn't see the video. But if you go through Infowars.com and you get a hold of Alex Jones, he will be more than, he said it on air,